Welcome to the deep dive. For, gosh, the last year or so, if you've been listening to anyone in the tech sphere, the big question about generative AI has been less about if it could talk. We know it can talk. It's been more about when it would finally learn to act.
Right.
I mean, we've seen this incredible, almost instantaneous content generation, text, code, images.
It's been amazing to watch.
But the core utility, at the end of the day, it's remained conversational.
Exactly. Prompt and response.
Yeah, and everyone has been speculating, about this moment. The moment generative AI stops just waiting for the next prompt and proactively starts taking concrete, measurable action.
And not just anywhere, but inside the real-world operating systems of a business.
That's the key.
And, that transition, which it sounds simple on paper from conversation to action, is genuinely the difference between a cool novelty and a full-blown revolution.
It really is.
I mean, when AI moves from just drafting a summary to actually executing a financial close,
Whoa.
the economic stakes just fundamentally shift. So what we're diving into today is, well, it's the empirical confirmation, the proof that this shift isn't hypothetical anymore.
The moment is here.
The moment is here, the data has arrived, and it's validating that 2025 is the year. This is the point where AI agents moved from, the drawing board into complex, mission-critical enterprise deployment.
And this confirmation, the signal we're all following, it comes directly from the adoption data that's just been released by Perplexity.
Mm-hmm.
And they are, a crucial name in the AI innovation space. Their visibility into how users are integrating this stuff, it makes their findings pretty undeniable.
It's not just survey data. It's not sentiment.
No, this isn't future tense speculation. It's confirmation from real-world deployment data that this defining moment has arrived.
We've basically transitioned from a world of large language models, or LLMs, that specialize in predicting the next word.
Which is still an incredible feat.
Oh, absolutely. But we've moved from that to AI agents that specialize in predicting the next logical step.
The next action.
The next action in a complex, multi-system workflow. And, this is where these systems become truly autonomous, where they can handle genuinely intricate enterprise tasks at a massive scale.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission today is to understand not just the confirmation itself, because the data validates the shift, but what the profound implications are for you, our listener, and frankly, for the entire global economy.
It's that big.
It feels that big. We're going to dissect the mechanism that allows these agents to operate with such high precision. And we'll look at the massive strategic gains that companies are seeing.
Things like boosting workflow efficiency across different sectors.
Yeah, and serious reductions in operational costs. Ultimately, we're analyzing the beginnings of a fundamental revolution that is redefining the very fabric of business operations.
I don't think revolution is too strong a word here.
I don't either. It's a huge seismic shift, and the data is finally here to guide our deep dive.
So let's start at the beginning of all this speculation, before 2025. The foundational prediction that really dominated the tech world was that AI needed to escape let's call it the conversational sandbox.
Good term for it.
It had to move beyond that front-end chat interface and start operating autonomously, behind the scenes, integrating with the messy, complicated reality of enterprise IT systems. What was the core economic driver behind that prediction? Why was everyone so sure this had to happen?
It all comes down to value realization.
Okay.
The market recognized that while generative AI was transformative for individual productivity, helping a single lawyer draft a brief faster or a single coder write a function.
Right, personal assistance on steroids.
Exactly. But that wasn't fundamentally changing the cost structure or the speed of a 100,000-person enterprise. For AI to unlock that, the promised multi-trillion-dollar value, it had to scale.
Horizontally, yeah, across departments. It had to automate entire processes and integrate seamlessly. Because before, a human still had to take that brilliant text generated by an LLM,
Copy paste,
and then manually input it into the ERP system, or schedule the meeting, or validate the data against some separate ledger. That friction, that human in the loop, that was the bottleneck.
So the prediction was really simple then. You have to eliminate the human as the mandatory connective tissue between the AI's intelligence and the business's execution systems.
Exactly. That's it in a nutshell. The AI needed to evolve into an autonomous workflow engine. It had to be capable of receiving a high-level, often pretty vague instruction.
Like, get our books in order for Q4.
Yeah, or process all Q4 invoices, or complete the annual compliance audit. And then it had to break that instruction down into hundreds of discrete, sequential, and often conditional steps.
Then do them.
And then execute those steps across various systems, accessing different tools, and this is the critical part, self-correcting along the way.
Right. What happens when something goes wrong?
Exactly. Without that leap, the technology remained an incredible assistant. With it, it becomes a core operational layer of the business itself.
And now, this analysis confirms that this prediction it's no longer future tense. Perplexity's new adoption data officially validates that AI agents are being increasingly deployed to handle these intricate enterprise tasks. And as the source notes, this marks a really significant evolution.
It's an inflection point. I mean, for decades, automation was built on this rigid, rule-based logic.
RPA, right? Robotic Process Automation.
Exactly, RPA. And that was great for extremely predictable linear tasks. If this cell says X, copy it to that field Y.
Very brittle, though. If the website changes a button, the whole thing breaks.
Completely. But AI agents, they introduce reasoning and adaptability into automation. So when a leading industry player like Perplexity reports that their enterprise clients are moving beyond simple summarization and are actually trusting these systems with tasks that have high complexity, high value.
And require multi-step, logical execution.
That signals the technology is mature. It's finally reached the necessary level of reliability and robustness to handle real money and real regulatory risk in the enterprise sector.
Okay, let's focus on Perplexity's role here for a second, because the reliability of the source is paramount for this conversation. Why is data from a company like them cited as a leading name in AI innovation? Why is that such a crucial signal for confirming widespread adoption and not just, market hype? What are they seeing that maybe others would miss?
Well, their relevance really stems from their position in the current AI stack. While they are very well known for their consumer applications, their enterprise footprint is what's critical here.
Okay.
They aren't just observing front-end adoption, like how many people are chatting with an AI. They're analyzing the complex, integrated telemetry data.
So the data behind the scenes.
Deep behind the scenes. It shows how these systems are interacting with core business processes. They're seeing the agents execute tasks across different APIs, integrating with ancient legacy systems, and demonstrating the ability to reason their way through these really nonlinear problems.
So they're effectively witnessing the digital exhaust of these highly complex cross-platform workflows.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. They have visibility into the success and failure rates of multi-tool usage within the enterprise. So when they confirm a widespread trend, it means they're not just seeing a few successful pilots here and there.
Right, this is deployed.
Yeah.
In production.
It's measurable, sustained usage across a substantial and really diverse user base. Companies that require high availability and extreme precision. This is what shifts the entire narrative definitively from this could happen to this is happening now.
From theoretical potential to. Okay, so that confirmation feels really solid. But let's make sure we're being precise with our terms here. We've used AI agent and LLM. For the listener who is trying to get a handle on the technical shift, what really makes these systems agents that are capable of action, rather than just the highly sophisticated LLMs we've known for the last couple of years?
That is the most fundamental distinction, and it's so important to get right. We need to think of the LLM as the brain. Specifically, it's the massive memory and language processing center.
The part that knows things.
The part that knows things and can communicate. An LLM is, at its core, a prediction machine. It analyzes vast amounts of data and predicts the best sequence of words or tokens to generate based on a prompt. It is, by its nature, reactive.
Right. It waits for the prompt, gives a brilliant answer, and then it just goes dormant and sits there waiting for the next instruction.
Exactly. An AI agent, however, uses that sophisticated LLM as its reasoning engine. The agent is the overarching architectural framework. It's like the operating system, if you will, that provides the LLM with eyes and hands and feet. The agent defines a goal. It uses the LLM to formulate a step-by-step plan to achieve that goal, and then it provides the LLM with access to external tools.
Like what kind of tools?
Databases, web browsers, internal company APIs, you name it. And it monitors the execution of those tools, observes the outcome, and then, and this is key, it initiates the crucial cycle of self-correction.
So it tries again if it fails.
Or it iterates if the first step didn't work as planned, it adjusts.
Wow, that's a massive difference. You're talking about moving from a writer to a project manager. If I ask a standard LLM, draft a quarterly financial summary, it just generates the text.
Exactly. But the agent goes so much further. If you ask an AI agent, execute the quarterly financial close and reconciliation, it receives that high-level instruction.
A much scarier instruction.
A much scarier instruction. And it immediately uses the LLM to decompose that goal. Step 1. Access the ERP system ledger. Step 2. Query the subsidiary databases for outstanding debts. Step 3. Run the reconciliation script.
And it knows how to do all of that.
It knows how to call the tools that do all of that. And it can have conditional logic.
Yeah.
Step 4. If a discrepancy over, say, $10,000 is found, flag it and alert the compliance officer via email. Step 5. Generate the final summary report. It's executing these multi-step complex workflows based on autonomous reasoning and instruction.
It's the move from giving sophisticated advice
To taking responsibility for the outcome of the entire business process.
and that ability to take responsibility for an outcome that involves multiple systems and conditional logic, that is what Perplexity's data confirms, is now scaling rapidly within these intricate enterprise tasks.
Precisely. And that capability fundamentally changes the economics of how an enterprise runs.
How so?
Because it means the AI is now a direct contributor to operational output, not just intellectual output. It's on the assembly line, not just in the design room.
Let's delve into the mechanics of this operation then. The terminology used in the findings: complex tasks and intricate enterprise tasks. That's key. When we compare this to the earlier uses of generative AI, what exactly defines the level of complexity these new agents are tackling? Can you give us some practical examples?
Sure. The complexity is really defined by a few things: the depth of the reasoning required, the number of external systems it has to touch, and the need to manage state over time.
What do you mean by managed state?
It has to remember what it did in step 1 to inform what it does in step 5.
Got it.
Earlier generative AI was great at tasks that were fundamentally creative or analytical based on a fixed set of inputs you gave it. Drafting marketing copy, summarizing a legal document, they were, for the most part, linear.
And in the enterprise context, those are often considered, low-risk creative support roles. Very useful, but not mission-critical execution.
Right. Now, agents are tackling workflows that are inherently nonlinear and conditional. They have to react to a changing environment. Think about something like dynamically managing a global pharmaceutical supply chain.
Okay, yeah, that's complex.
Right. The agent has to constantly monitor raw material stock levels across 6 different countries. It has to cross-reference that against real-time shipping logistics, check for changing tariffs or regulatory export requirements.
And that data is coming from all different places in all different formats.
All over the place. And then, based on that live data, it has to dynamically reroute inventory or issue new purchase orders. The task requires this intricate logic. If stock A drops below level X, then check tariff B. If tariff B is above 10%, then order from supplier C, otherwise order from supplier D, and then make sure all the ERP entries are updated in real time.
Wow.
That depth of conditional reasoning, executed across all those disparate data sources, is what defines intricate enterprise work.
That complexity really leans on the concept you introduced earlier,
Mhm.
the AI agent as a reasoning engine. Can we elaborate on the technical architecture that allows the LLM to manage this complex choreography of systems? What's going on under the hood?
Yeah, so the reasoning engine, at a high level, it operates via a continuous loop. It's often called the Observe, Orient, Decide, Act loop, or ODI loop, which is a concept adapted from military strategy, actually. It starts with the LLM taking the initial high-level goal and using its extensive knowledge base to formulate a plan. And this plan isn't just a sequence of text, it's a sequence of actions that involve accessing external systems.
So the LLM is translating the ambiguous human request into a deterministic, machine-readable flowchart.
Precisely, a very flexible flowchart. Then it moves to tool use. The agent architecture equips the LLM with access to a library of specific APIs or software connectors. These are the tools. The LLM, acting as the decision maker, selects the appropriate tool for the current step in its plan.
So it might select the database connector for step 1, the email API for step 2, and maybe a payment gateway API for step 3.
Exactly. And it doesn't write the code for the tool itself. It just generates the correct input parameters for the tool to execute. It knows how to ask the tool to do its job.
And once the tool executes, the agent then observes the result.
Yes. And the observation phase is absolutely critical. The system gets feedback. Did the API call succeed? Did the database query return the data I expected? If the system gets an error code or an unexpected output, the agent doesn't just stop and throw up its hands.
Which is what the old automation would do.
Right. It enters the self-correction iteration phase. It goes back to the LLM, its reasoning engine, with the new information and asks, okay, that didn't work. What's the next logical step to resolve this error or adjust the plan based on this new reality? This iterative, adaptive loop is what allows the agent to handle the messy reality of enterprise systems, which, as you know, often fail or return ambiguous results. This is the technical core that has enabled the shift we're seeing in the data.
That level of autonomy, it has to require immense reliability. And the source points out that this capability leads to two critical benefits in the enterprise: the execution of tasks with precision and seamless integration into existing systems. Let's start with precision. How does an AI agent achieve a higher level of precision than a highly trained, very experienced human specialist?
It really comes down to three things: consistency, scale, and a perfect adherence to rules. Humans, even the best experts, are prone to fatigue, to subjective interpretation, or just simply missing one tiny detail in a massive data set.
A needle in the haystack.
Exactly. An AI agent, once the logical pathway is established, executes that pathway identically across millions of transactions without fail or variation. It never gets tired. It never has a bad day.
So if the rule is defined correctly, the agent is a perfect enforcer of that rule every single time.
Absolutely. Think about something like auditing in a finance department. A human team might rely on spot checks and statistical sampling to verify compliance across, billions of dollars of quarterly transactions. They just can't check everything.
Right.
An AI agent can check every single transaction against the specific, real-time, updated regulatory rule set for tax compliance or fraud detection. It does it with perfect recall and 100% adherence. So precision in this context means eliminating the cost of poor quality.
What do you mean by that?
Fewer fix-up costs for mistakes, zero penalties for compliance errors, and drastically reduced risk exposure. When you scale that kind of precision across mission-critical systems, the value proposition just becomes overwhelming.
That sounds incredible in a world of, clean, modern, API-driven systems.
Yeah.
But the second part of that benefit is crucial: seamless integration into existing systems. I have to imagine that in a massive enterprise, you're talking about decades-old legacy software, often running on proprietary APIs or sometimes no APIs at all.
The green screen systems.
Exactly. And what about the massive data security risks and the practical technical friction of giving an autonomous agent access to these legacy systems? This just sounds like a major, major hurdle.
Oh, it is. It's the necessary and incredibly difficult challenge that the enterprise AI sector has had to overcome. And the very fact that Perplexity's data validates widespread adoption suggests they are succeeding at it. You are absolutely right. Many legacy systems lack clean, modern APIs. This is where the agent architecture has had to get really clever. It overcomes this friction in, I'd say, two main ways.
Which are?
Okay, first, through advanced semantic understanding. The LLM component can understand unstructured data.
So not just clean database rows.
No. Reading a PDF, interpreting a complex email chain, or even pulling data from a screen interface via advanced techniques that mimic human interaction. This is sometimes called headless interaction or advanced RPA. So the agent can interpret the intent and extract information from systems that were designed for human eyes, not for clean data feeds.
So the agent is essentially reading the screen and deciding what buttons to click, but it's doing it millions of times faster and more accurately than an old, brittle RPA script could.
Exactly. And second, the integration is managed through a secure, often heavily permissioned layer specifically designed for these agents. The agent doesn't just get blanket access to the entire company's infrastructure. That would be a nightmare.
A huge security risk.
A massive one. Instead, it accesses specific, heavily vetted tool wrappers that mediate the interaction. The risk is minimized by ensuring the agent can only execute pre-approved actions through monitored interfaces. The seamless nature isn't just about speed, it's about being able to leverage current IT investments, all that legacy infrastructure, without needing a massive, risky 10-year replacement project. That low-friction adoption is the revolution because it allows companies to move from a pilot project to full production at a speed that was previously just unheard of.
So it's making the complexity of the legacy system invisible to the modern agent layer, allowing for immediate, precise execution.
Yeah.
That really grounds this whole transition in practical reality for me.
Now let's transition from the mechanics of it to the market impact, because here is where the source suggests the technology shifts from being, an interesting development to a profound business imperative. The most immediate and often cited benefit is significantly boosting workflow efficiency across various industries. Explain how automating complex tasks, specifically, leads to such exponential gains in efficiency. It's not just a little bit faster, is it?
No, it's a step change. The gains come from eliminating the multiplicative delays that are just inherent in complex human-mediated workflows. Let's take a high-volume process, something like processing a non-standard insurance claim, which requires input from multiple departments.
Okay.
The human claims adjuster has to check the policy database, then pull loss data from the underwriting system, then verify compliance with state-specific regulations, then send manual data requests to external adjusters.
And wait for them to reply. And wait for various human approvals at each stage. This process involves, I don't know, maybe a dozen handoffs and could take multiple days, even weeks of elapsed time.
But all those handoffs are points of friction, right?
Yeah.
Where information just sits in an inbox, waiting for someone to finish their other task and switch context.
Precisely. That latency, that waiting time for context switching and manual data consolidation, that is the death of efficiency. When an AI agent handles this, it receives the claim, accesses all 5 systems instantaneously, applies the regulatory logic, performs the automated cross-referencing, generates the necessary compliance reports, and triggers the final payment approval.
And it does all that in how long?
In seconds or minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The agent eliminates the latency, the manual consolidation, and the human context switching time. So you go from days or weeks of processing time down to mere minutes. That is the definition of a significant boost in workflow efficiency, especially when you apply it across vast transaction volumes.
This speed and the elimination of that friction is surely why the analysis describes this as a pivotal moment for enterprises. That term, pivotal moment, suggests far more than a simple upgrade. It implies an existential strategic change.
It absolutely does. When we talk about a pivotal moment in strategic business terms, we're marking the transition point where a new technology shifts the competitive landscape permanently. Before this moment, using an AI agent might have been a way to gain a competitive edge. You could be 10% faster or 15% cheaper.
How nice to have.
A nice to have that puts you ahead. But after the pivotal moment, if your competitor adopts this technology and they achieve, say, a 50% increase in throughput and a 30% reduction in processing costs, and you don't,
You're in trouble.
you are quickly going to be pushed out of the market.
So for enterprises that are seeking to enhance productivity, it stops being a choice and becomes a prerequisite for solvency, becomes table stakes.
Correct. The pivot is about adapting to the new reality, where efficiency and precision are dramatically democratized by this kind of automation. Enterprises must not only adopt AI, but they have to fundamentally restructure their operations around its capabilities. This is about maximizing the output per human employee by offloading all repeatable, logic-driven tasks, which frees up your human capital to focus only on high-value, unique, creative work. And those who recognize this as a foundational strategic change, rather than just another IT project, are the ones positioning themselves to survive and thrive.
That enhanced productivity leads directly into the dual financial benefit that's highlighted in the source: enhancing productivity and significantly reducing operational costs. We've touched on the labor time savings, but let's really dissect the reduction in operational costs in full. Where else is the money being saved when we automate these complex enterprise tasks? It's not just salaries, is it?
No, not at all. The savings are systemic, and they reach far beyond just reduced salaries. While the reduction in human labor hours spent on highly specialized yet repeatable complex tasks is primary, we have to consider all the flow-on effects.
Like what? Infrastructure and trading costs, that kind of thing?
Exactly. Let's break it down into, say, 3 major categories beyond just the labor hours. First, you have reduced capital expenditure, or CapEx, on software and infrastructure. Many complex enterprise tasks were managed using incredibly specialized, high-cost proprietary software licenses.
Oh yeah, the multi-million-dollar software packages.
Right, often customized solutions that required continuous, expensive maintenance contracts. Agents, by integrating directly through standard APIs or through that semantic understanding we talked about, can often bypass the need for massive, rigid software licensing updates or entire system replacements. The marginal cost of an API call or a bit of cloud compute function is minuscule compared to updating a legacy financial system license for 5,000 users.
So they're essentially achieving the function of an incredibly expensive legacy software update without having to buy the software. Wow.
Precisely. Okay, second big area. Reduced specialized training and compliance costs. These complex tasks required highly paid experts who needed continuous, expensive training to keep up with regulatory changes, software updates, new protocols.
A constant treadmill.
It is. If the agent is the one absorbing these regulatory changes, which it can do instantly by reading and applying new legal texts, the need to pull your specialized human staff out of their jobs for multi-day compliance training dramatically diminishes. The agent ensures instant, precise compliance, which reduces both the training costs and the cost of any regulatory penalties from mistakes.
Okay, that makes sense. And what's the third area?
The third is optimized resource utilization and inventory management. When the complexity of, say, supply chain logistics is managed by a reasoning agent, it operates in real time, optimizing inventory levels dynamically. Humans often have to rely on buffers and forecasting with limited data, which leads to either costly overstocking, which is dead capital just sitting on a shelf, or stockouts, which means lost sales.
Right.
An agent reduces this waste. It ensures the right resources are exactly where they need to be, exactly when they need to be there, which translates into huge savings in working capital and warehousing costs.
So for our listener, understanding this cost reduction model is really key to predicting future market changes. I mean, if the cost of executing highly sophisticated work drops this sharply, we're looking at a fundamental repricing of professional services in back-office finance, logistics, and compliance globally.
Absolutely. The entire value equation changes. If the execution of a task becomes highly precise, instantaneous, and cheap, the value shifts irrevocably from the execution itself to defining the strategic goal that the execution serves.
From the how to the what and why.
Exactly. And this shift in value is what we really mean when we talk about redefining the fabric of business.
So now we move beyond just efficiency and cost saving, and we look at that strategic shift. The source suggests that this transition opens up new avenues for business innovation and strategy.
What does this look like in practice for the human workers, the managers, the executives who are now freed from managing the execution? What do they do all day?
Well, it means the elimination of a huge amount of cognitive overhead, which allows for a fundamental elevation of human capital. Previously, human strategic thinking was constantly constrained by implementation complexity. An ambitious, really complicated strategy might be scrapped, not because the idea was flawed, but because the sheer labor and time required to execute it was prohibitive.
The idea was great, but the spreadsheet would have a million rows.
Exactly. Now, if execution is delegated to a precise, reliable, autonomous agent, those constraints disappear. So the brainpower that was focused on tracking those spreadsheets, managing interdepartmental handoffs, and debugging manual errors is now completely free to focus on pure invention.
Exactly. This allows companies to focus their human effort on these really high-level strategic activities. Things like scenario planning and risk modeling. Teams can now run 1,000 complex what-if scenarios instantly. They can model a new market entry under various regulatory and supply chain constraints, something that used to take a team of analysts months to do.
And now it's an afternoon.
Or less. They can dedicate time to pure blue sky innovation, designing entirely new business models or products that previously just seemed impossible because of the execution complexity. The new avenues for innovation are opened up simply because the time dedicated to strategic risk-taking is no longer penalized by the slow, cumbersome process of implementation.
That strategic liberation, it leads us to the final vision that's presented in the source, which is fostering an environment where human creativity and AI precision coexist and complement each other. This synergistic relationship, it sounds like the ideal, the ultimate collaboration.
It is the optimal structure. The key is understanding the respective strengths of each side. The human brings the creativity, the empathy, and the unpredictable insight.
The stuff machines are bad at.
The stuff machines are bad at. The ability to identify a market need that hasn't been codified yet, the ethical judgment necessary for high-stakes decisions, or the novel solution to a completely unforeseen black swan problem. The AI agent, on the other hand, brings the precision, the speed, and the scale. The ability to flawlessly implement that complex creative vision across thousands of systems globally, instantly, and reliably.
So the human is the visionary architect, and the agent is the flawless general contractor who builds the vision perfectly to spec. Can you give us a concrete example of this collaboration in action at a strategic level?
Sure. Imagine a chief marketing officer realizes a major geopolitical event requires an immediate, complex restructure of product pricing across 40 different jurisdictions.
A chaotic situation.
A nightmare scenario, usually. Each jurisdiction has unique tax and language requirements, and it impacts 3 separate product lines. The human team spends a few hours in a room designing the creative, high-level strategic policy. Restructure pricing model X to reflect new tariff Z, effective immediately, while ensuring full compliance with local consumer protection laws. That's the complex, creative, strategic decision.
And before this, implementing that plan would involve what? Coordination meetings, endless email chains, and weeks of manual data entry by middle management all over the globe.
A total mess. Now, the AI agent receives that strategic policy as an instruction. It instantly decomposes that instruction into thousands of microtasks, querying all 40 ERP systems, calculating the specific jurisdiction-mandated price points, updating the consumer-facing websites in 40 languages, ensuring all the regulatory paperwork is flagged for filing, and updating all the internal accounting ledgers.
And it does all of this.
All executed with perfect precision in minutes. The agents handle the doing so the humans can focus entirely on the leading. This synergy transforms the role of middle management from being execution specialists into pure strategic facilitators.
This really sounds like more than just evolution. This feels like a systemic change. This is the revolution the source is referring to, redefining the very fabric of business.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the journey from conversation to action isn't just an incremental improvement on existing software. It's not a faster horse. It's a revolution because it alters the fundamental mechanisms of value creation. Evolution gives you a faster computer chip. A revolution changes what you use the computer chip for.
And when the source says it promises to redefine the very fabric of business operations, what exactly is the biggest systemic shift we should anticipate from this?
I think the biggest systemic shift is the unbundling of intelligence from execution. Historically, complex execution was always the limiting factor on ambitious strategy. Only organizations with massive, specialized human capital could afford to be strategically ambitious.
There's a barrier to entry.
A huge one. By making complex, multi-system execution cheap, instantaneous, and precise via the agent, the new limiting factor becomes pure human originality, the complexity that agents are solving today. That was the structural friction of human enterprise. By automating this, the very foundation itself changes, forcing every process that was built on top of it to be reimagined. This is a systemic, fundamental shift that demands a total restructuring of organizational design and how we allocate labor.
It sounds like the competitive winners in the next decade will be the organizations that best master this synergy, leveraging AI precision to execute their human-driven creativity at a speed that's just unmatched.
That is the new operating mandate. And what's so important about today's deep dive is that Perplexity's data provides the empirical proof that this race is now fully, officially underway.
This has been a tremendously insightful deep dive into what is, it's clearly a major inflection point in AI history. Let's quickly summarize the essential findings that were validated by the data released this week.
The speculation is now reality. Perplexity data validates the shift to AI agents handling complex enterprise tasks. These agents move beyond just LLMs by functioning as sophisticated reasoning engines.
Right.
And that enables them to execute these intricate, multi-step workflows across systems with unprecedented precision and, crucially, low-friction integration.
And the profound implication is clear. Enormous systemic gains in workflow efficiency and a significant reduction in operational costs. This marks a pivotal moment where adopting agent technology becomes really an existential requirement for competitive enterprises globally.
And critically, this transition fosters a powerful new synergy where AI precision handles all the complex execution, which liberates human creativity to focus entirely on strategic innovation. It's redefining the very fabric of business-moving people from doers to pure strategic leaders.
The speed and the scope of change that's confirmed by these late 2025 findings are just transformative. But there is a final provocative thought we have to leave you with, building directly on this concept that the revolution elevates the human worker purely to the role of the strategic thinker.
If these agents are successfully managing these intricate, multi-step tasks today, tasks that just yesterday used to require specialized human experts, how quickly will the very definition of a complex task change? In 6 months, tasks we call complex today will seem trivial for the agent to handle.
The goalposts will just keep moving.
They'll move faster than we can imagine.
Right.
And when the agents have successfully automated everything that is predictable or routine or logic-driven, what will the core remaining job of the human worker look like? The future workforce seems to be geared toward needing only pure, unpredictable creativity, deep empathy, and the capacity for critical decision-making under genuine, never-before-seen uncertainty. We are heading toward a future where execution is fully automated and human contribution is entirely conceptual. And that fundamental shift in what it means for a human to contribute, that is the largest question that accelerates alongside this technology.
A profound shift from execution specialists to pure conceptual architects. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay informed and keep curious as we follow this truly exciting trajectory in the world of artificial intelligence and enterprise transformation.